Well, I'm attempting something new here. I have never used PowerPoint to record a lecture before, but I noticed the record button and I was like, going to throw this up. So I apologize for not being here today in class. I sat down with Miss Perry over a week ago in a really bad day mentally, and I scheduled this for my last advisory board, not realizing how I was going to miss the last fifth period of content for Animalia. Um, so I am recording this instead of lecturing to you in person. It's going to be the same thing. Oops, what am I doing? We are bilateral organisms, we are coelomates, and we are, I believe I said we are bilateral organisms. Sorry, I was just interrupted. We are in the domain eukarya, we are uniconta, we are specifically ophisticonts. We have talked about basal organisms, lophotrochozoans, adixozoa, echinodermata, and now we are in chordata, of which we have already discussed. I don't know what I'm doing. The three subphylums of cephalochordata, urochordata, which we're going to talk about very briefly and then just ignore, and craniata, which is everything that you could think of when you think animal is a craniata. Okay, so the four characteristics that you definitely have to have to be in the phylum Chordata are once again the notochord, which provides support. It's at least a thin flexible rod, at the very least, and then for organisms much larger than a lancelet, such as ourselves, it is what becomes our backbone. And then you need a dorsal hollow nerve cord, which is at least some sort of rudimentary brain structure that travels down the length of the body, and then for us it actually turns into our spinal column and our brain. You need a muscular post-anal tail, which one of the classes had me look up babies that were born with tails, and it was funny and a little terrifying. So I encourage you to look that up because it is a thing that happens because you have a muscular post-anal tail in utero. You have a muscular post-anal tail in utero. I know I have shown y'all this quite a bit. This is you as a fetus at some point where you have a muscular post-anal tail right here. Now this is when you are teeny, tiny, 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 somewhere in the first trimester, because by the end of the first trimester, you already have your human shape. But we have a teeny, teeny, tiny post-muscular anal tail, and then at this stage you also have pharyngeal slits. Which become our ear, head, and neck in the higher animals. But at one point, you had pharyngeal slits, which you can call gills. You had a tail. Some people are born with it. If you Google that, you will see some images. You had a notochord that became your backbone, and you had a dorsal hollow nerve cord that became your brain and spinal column. And that is why you belong in the phylum Chordata. So, you belong in the phylum Chordata. Anything that has these four structures belongs. I don't know why I have the, are y'all seeing the eraser on the screen? This is going to be really interesting to find out. Anything that has these four structures belongs in the phylum Chordata at any stage. Look, not necessarily retained throughout the life of the organism, because obviously you still don't have a tail and you still don't have pharyngeal slits. So it's if it happens at any time during the life cycle. Okay, so we have to talk about all of these animals. Okay, you talked about echinodermata. We all fall under deuterostomes, which, if you remember, means that we have two openings, a mouth and an anus, and the anus is created first in utero in our triple blastic ball of cells. Okay. We've already talked about the lancelet. We have Chordata, which we're going to talk about and promptly forget because it doesn't follow any of the rules. And then we have hagfish, hagfish, lampreys, cartilaginous fish, true bony fish, lobed fin fish, lungfish, there's a lot of fish, amphibians, reptilia, which includes avians, and then Mammalia. I would like you to note that over here on this side, it is showing you all the evolutionary importance of each of these distinctions. Okay, so this is a very good slide for you to know for this presentation. We talked about the lancelet. It has a dorsal hollow nerve cord, notochord, postanal tail, and pharyngeal slits. Basically, it is the chordata. It is the example of having the bare minimum of the 4 things that you need to be in chordata. It is a poor swimmer. It also has muscular tissue. It spends most of its life hanging out underground, burrowed at an angle, and feeding with its tentacles. And that's how the lancelet do. It is important because it is the primary base chordate. Then you have the tunicates, which is subphylum Chordata. These guys, as adults, do none of the things that you're supposed to do to be a chordate. In fact, as an adult, it looks like a sac. But as a larvae, it has all the 4 structures. So here's what it looks like as an adult. It's not impressive. It doesn't move. It's sessile. I'm not even sure what it is, which is why I don't really like talking about them. But here it is as a juvenile, and you see that they mention the dorsal hollow nerve cord and the notochord and the tail and the pharynx with slits. And you can see sort of how the larvae ends up folding all on itself, kind of like a snail, where the anus is above the mouth or something. Where's the mouth here? Oh, in this case, the mouth is above the anus. Well, that's nice. But it just turns into almost a sponge-like structure. But because the larvae, at some point in its life cycle, has this information, or these 4 structures, it's a chordate. Moving on. Into subphylum Craniata. We have vertebrae with enclosing a spinal cord, so backbone with nerves running down it, an elaborate skull that encases some sort of brain structure, and fin rays in aquatics. So there's fins in the aquatics. Sure. Okay, we're going to start with hagfish and lampreys. They're called Myxini, or the hagfish, and Petromyzotinida are the lampreys. What is very important about these guys is they are, ooh, this is hard, jawless. Okay, so we don't have a jaw structure here, but they are precursor animals to the rest of the animals. Hagfish are scavengers. They'll feed on dead or dying fish or worms. They have slime glands, like copious amounts of slime. Like they will drown you in slime to protect themselves. And I'm talking, you know, we have mucus when we have a runny nose and it's thick and whatever. I'm talking like suffocatingly thick mucus. And it's jawless. Everything else is like, okay. Here's a hagfish. Here's its slime glands. And here is all the slime that is being produced from a hagfish because it is, of course, in distress and it's trying to protect itself against predators. At this point, I would pause this lecture and go and watch the video over the hagfish and then come back to this. And we're back. Okay, so they are important in nutrient recycling. So they're like roly-polies and earthworms, but in the ocean. They're important to get rid of the waste in the ocean so it doesn't build up and then suffocate all the ocean animals, right? Here is a hagfish on land. I love this because it says resembles a lamprey, but you haven't looked at a lamprey yet. But it has a rounded mouth. It's jawless, so its mouth is actually enclosed in that rounded space, and it has to avert its mouth. The video shows this very well, if you didn't stop to watch it, to get its teeth out so it can tear at flesh. Then we get to Petromyzontida. which you don't have to know that, but these are the lampreys. These are blood-sucking parasites. They rasp a hole into the side of, you know, fish and freshwater and sharks and saltwater and whatever they can get a hold of, really, and they adhere themselves to the organism and then suck its bodily juices. Now, like one lamprey on a single large fish isn't going to do enough damage to kill the fish, but you can get multiple lampreys on a fish or a shark or something, and they could not suck it dry, but they can hurt it very much. And these are also jawless. These are jawless, but their mouth is always on display. It has a sucker-like suction mouth, so it creates suction here. Whee! Oh, look at that pretty red lipstick. And then it rasps away at the tissue of the organism with its very impressive array of teeth in order to feed. It's been devastating in the Great Lakes because they are overproducing. Here is a lamprey. Note the gill pouches is what it says. And here are multiple lamprey on, I don't know my fish very well, but let's say some sort of carp species, because that's most likely what it is. And that gets us through hagfish and lampreys. So if you would, please stop here and go watch the video over the lampreys. And we're back. So now we are in phylum Chordata, subphylum Craniata, class Chondrichthyes. Ichthyes means fish. Chondro means cartilage. So these are your cartilaginous fish. These are more ancient than your more bony fish. So we're talking sharks, skates, and rays here. They have a cartilaginous skeleton. They don't have bone in their body. They're made up of cartilage. They have scales, but not like a fish scale. They have, if you've never touched one, because like if you can go to an aquarium, you can catch stingrays a lot. It's got like a scratchy, like a cat's tongue, like a scratchy skin. It doesn't grow bacteria. It has rows of teeth. They have rows of teeth. I don't know why I'm saying it's. And a two-chambered heart. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first set of organisms that does not have a single-chambered heart. We now have two chambers. This is important. Why would we mention it if it wasn't important? But it's important that you know it happens in Chondrichthyes. You know about these animals' electroreceptors and lateral lines. They're electrical senses. You may not realize that ancient you was more in tune to electrical senses than you are today because we're surrounded by electricity, but you kind of have these senses as well, not like a shark or a skate or a ray, but they're there. They have to be continuous swimmers because if they don't swim, they will sink and drown. Swimming forces water across their gills. They don't do what fish do. They don't pump their gills to move the water through. They have to move through the water to get it past their gills. And so if they stop swimming, they suffocate and drown. They don't have a swim bladder. If you aren't familiar with that, a swim bladder is an organ that a lot of fish have that they can increase their buoyancy or decrease it and rise and sink depending on what they need to do. These animals don't have swim bladders. They use oils in their liver, which just sounds crazy. These are very, very important words for you. Oviparous, ovoviviparous, and viviparous. These are the three different ways that chordatas can give birth. Oviparous means they lay eggs. Ovoviviparous. Okay, so let's go back to oviparous. You're talking chickens. You're talking some sharks. Oh my God, what else lays eggs? Salamanders, frogs, whatever lays an egg. right? And then the whole life cycle of the organism happens after that egg has been laid and whatever. Ovoviviparous is a way a lot of shark species give birth, and also skates and rays, is where the eggs are laid, quote unquote, internally, and then they hatch internally, and then you give live birth. And the reason a lot of this happens internally in these particular species or animals specifically is because once the eggs hatch internally, it's survival of the fittest, and you'll have some of the offspring eat the other offspring while they're still in the body of the mom, and then give birth. She gives birth to less. And then viviparous is what all placental animals do. We give live birth. We give birth to a living thing. They'd all come from an egg, but the egg is completely internal, and we don't have any egg cycle in our lives. Well, okay, we do, but you know what I mean. There's no egg. And all these animals are endangered because humans. Oh, look, there's these words, and I didn't have to struggle that much. So oviparous lays egg external to the body. Ovoviviparous has an internal egg but live birth, and viviparous is placental and we have live young. So I wasn't bad. I knew what I was talking about. Here's a shark. That's a hammerhead shark. That is a shark. I don't think it's anything besides a great white. It could be a nurse shark based on the nose. It could be a shovel. No, it's not a shovel shark. I don't know sharks that well. Here's sharks and skates and rays. Skates and rays are different based on their structure. One has more of a shovel nose to it. One is much more, oh, is you the shovel nose? One of them has a shovel nose. There's an eagle ray. Eagle. And this is a manta ray. You normally don't see these organisms. Well, first off, they're in much more well, I know they're around Hawaii. That's all I know. But I assume they're in more tropical waters when they come to the surface. But they do a great migration every year, like the sharks do as well, for spawning and breeding purposes. And it's cool to see that on like help me with words, documentary. There we go. There's a stingray. This is a skate. Ah, the skate has the shovel nose shape. Skates tend to have fleshier tails. Look at all this extra flesh and elongated noses. Good. And these are baby either skates or rays because I have no identifiers. Okay, at this point I would pause the video pause this lecture because I have a video over cartilaginous fish as well. But that might be a long one. I'm not really sure. So that brings us to the osteichthyes. Oste means bone, ichthyes still means fish. So these are your bony fish. This is everything that you can think of when you think of a fish. Catfish, bony fish. Clownfish, bony fish. Seagull, no, not what I meant to say at all. Seahorse, bony fish. The betta in my fish tank, bony fish. Bony fish, bony fish, bony fish. There's three types of classes. There's actinopterygii, actinista, which is the lobe-finned fishes, and then dipnoi, which is the lungfishes. But all of these are bony fishes. So we just did all of this, and now we are here at these classes of fish. So the ray-finned fish, or the actinopterygii, bony, and they have that swim bladder. It's the most diverse. They have scales. They still have a two-chambered heart. Some are ovoviviparous or viviparous. This is every fish you know. And we like to alter their habitat as we do. So here is some examples of bony fish. That is a seahorse, not a seagull. That's a perch species, I want to say. This is the inside of a fish. If you ever go fishing, if you've ever been fishing, you know if you're going to eat the meat of the fish, you have to gut it as quickly as you can because, oh, budgie. You know you have to gut the fish very quickly or it can taint the meat. And what you do is you slice into the abdomen, and you hook your fingers in at the gills and you just pull. And much like our intestines are all connected through mesentery and omentums, their intestines are all connected, and it should come out mouth to anus, and then all you are left with is the flesh along the spine. But all the things that you are taking out are gills, the kidneys, the heart, the liver, the stomach, the intestine, gonads, males or females, anus, and the urinary bladder. Because all of that, you don't want intestinal products or urinary products to taint the meat of the fish. This is a trigger fish. It's also the fish of Hawaii. Remember Dr. Dempsey did these internships in Hawaii, and it's called the Humna Humna Kaupa something something. It's got a really interesting name. Yes, this is fish. Look, fishes. Hey, look, more fish. That is a puffer fish, still a fish. This is a puffer fish doing the puff, so it doesn't get eaten. That is a clownfish with its symbiotic anemone. We found Nemo. This is a lionfish. They are highly invasive. Oh my God. And they are destroying all of our coastal waters because they outcompete everything, they murder everything, and we can't eat them. They're not like good eating fish for us. All their spines are toxic or poisonous or whatever you want to say. If you get stung, if you get struck, you're going to feel it. You can harvest them. That's like open season on these guys all year round, and we need them to be greatly diminished. Another seahorse, an eel. Ooh, eels are amazing. That is, oh, come on, brain. Is that a goby? No. Yes? No. I don't know. This is a blobfish. As you can see, it's true to its name. Now, this is not what a blobfish looks like in the water, but it doesn't have a lot of internal structures. It is a deep sea dwelling organism. So when you pull it up and it's subjected to all the pressures of gravity and everything, it deflates and looks like that. It's found in Australia, Tasmania, and New Zealand, where everything is. It was accidentally caught the first time in trawling nets. This is a bat fish. Yes, red-lipped batfish. There's also frogfish, which are highly adept hunters. There's also, can't remember the name, but they all look crazy. That gets us to class Actinista. These are your lobed fin fishes. Where's my hand? They're lobed fin. They don't do this. Where's my hand again? They don't just sit here and do this. They actually have the ability to pivot around a wrist-like structure, which makes them our ancestors. Okay? They're coelacanths. Coelacanths were thought to be extinct for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and then one was brought up in a fishing net in like 1923. And they were like, holy crap, coelacanths still exist. And they do to this day. Now, this is a preserved one at a museum, but you can see here how large these fish are. They are the size of human beings. They are, once again, deep water dwellers. Oh, 1938. I should read. Deep water dwellers. They're hard to find. They don't like to be messed with. They're very secretive animals. The video I have for you to see coelacanths is actually kind of fascinating. It's 3 scuba divers that stumble, well, they're searching for them, but they do finally stumble upon 2 of the animals, and they get really excited. So pause here to watch that video. So this gets us to class Dipnoi, which are the lungfishes, which means they have lungs. They have lungs. They have rudimentary lungs, but they can survive outside of water. This is not like the betta. The betta breathes air. It's called a labyrinth fish. The betta doesn't have gills, okay? It's an air breather through its labyrinth organs. These guys actually have lungs. You have an Australian lungfish, the South American lungfish, and the African lungfish. They have these structures that they can move on the land with, not very well. Like, they don't get this high off the ground, but they can move on the land. They have gills and lungs. It's developmentally timed, but they can live underwater or on top of water. They adapt to dry season through estivation. Estivation is basically extreme dormancy. They are, for all intents and purposes, dead, but their heart slightly beats and they slightly breathe, just enough to be considered alive. It lifts its body up to resemble walking, and okay, so here is a lungfish. There is another larger lungfish. Lungfish. Okay, and I do have a video for the lungfish. Actually, it's a pretty good one. It's short, but it shows estivation and everything. So go watch that video. Did I miss a number? Now we're in amphibia. Okay, guys, couple of things. We can move out of the water completely for a while. We have a 3-chambered heart. We undergo metamorphosis. If the tadpoles in my classroom would ever like to grow, you could see this. We are poikilothermic, which means we're cold-blooded organisms. But these are very important things to know. We have frogs and toads, we have salamanders, and we have caecilians. Frogs and toads. Frog. Frog. Toad. Frog versus toad. So frogs are long legs and smooth skin. Toads or short legs and rough skin. And then there's a video for that as well. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Then we have salamanders. They live in moist areas and they're great at regeneration. You have newts who are drier versions of salamanders. So salamanders have a juvenile form that looks exactly like axolotls. What an axolotl is an organism that undergoes paedomorphosis, which we talked about at the beginning of this semester maybe. And paedomorphosis is keeping your juvenile structures as an adult. So if an axolotl became an adult, it looks exactly like a salamander. But because it keeps its juvenile structures, it has to stay underwater. It has its external gills and all of that. So, and this is a salamander. This is a salamander. That's a salamander. And then we're done. So, yes. This is a caecilian. They are a legless amphibian. They made headlines very, very recently because they just discovered that they produce an oozing milk-like substance for their young, which is very interesting. This is a caecilian, and that gets us to reptiliae. Reptiles, like the budgie, budgerman, turtles, lizards, and then avis for birds. Class Reptiliae is snakes, lizards, geckos, skinks, turtles, crocodilians, and birds. All of them are in the class. They have scales. They either lay eggs or lay eggs in their body but give birth to live young, oviparous or ovoviviparous. They produce uric acid. If you've ever seen lizard poop, part of it is black, and then part of it, well, this isn't going to work, is white. That white is the uric acid. Remember, well, if you can, that these organisms only have one opening that which they poop, pee, and breed through. So they don't urinate with liquids. The uric acid part that is white, or the white part is the uric acid sorry, once again, the white part of their feces is the uric acid that they need to be removed from their, that's what we remove when we pee, okay? It's dry pee, essentially. These are generally carnivores, and we still have a 3-chambered heart. Well-developed lungs. We are all cold-blooded. We have aposematic coloring. This is coloring used to warn people that you are poisonous and to stay away. And then, of course, you have mimics that do the same thing, but they aren't poisonous. Okay, dinosaurs are ancient reptiles. We know this. But we don't know is birds are ancestral to T-Rex and company. Oh, sorry, wait, let me try that again. Crocodiles. I forgot about crocodiles. They're the same as they've always been. Okay, not according to the dinosaur train. There is one that walked on two legs, but crocodile's a crocodile, and they always have been a crocodile. Birds come from the T-Rex and company. They're raptors. Birds are raptors. They are feathered raptors that evolved to be mostly toothless, although they do still have rudimentary teeth. And as we know, we lost all the dinosaurs in the Great Extinction. So all the dinosaurs went away. Bye. And then the lizard-hipped dinosaurs went away. And then the meat-eating dinosaurs went away. And the tiny feathered raptors became birds. Okay. So here's ancient crocodile. He had a little bit more ability to lift himself off the land, but crocodile be a crocodile, and they still are to this day. And gators. Voracious hunters drown their prey, do the spiral of death. When they get their prey underwater, they spin and spin and spin and spin to both drown their prey, and then if the prey somehow manages to escape, it will be so disoriented it won't know how to surface, and they can get it back. There's alligator mississippiensis, and here is alligator mississippiensis, and then that's still an alligator, and that's a crocodile, possibly. Crocodiles have more pointed noses. The alligator has quite a rounded nose, and crocs tend to be larger. And then suddenly a sea turtle. And then the sea turtle. Sea turtles are reptiles. Cold-blooded, lay eggs. They come to the beach, the surface. They come to the same beach they were born at to lay their eggs. You have the Galapagos tortoise. You know, Darwin actually rode these when he found them. They get old, 150 years and some on. Then we have snakes. They have loosely jointed jaws. They have Jacobson's organs, which are hunting organs. So the very interesting thing about snakes is that if you look at their skeleton structure, in a lot of them you can see vestigial pelvic and limb bones. So like at some point an ancestor there used hind legs, but they don't anymore. And of course you have all your extremely poisonous toxic snakes. This is a green tree python. It is not venomous or poisonous or toxic or whatever the words are, but it constricts its prey. It's a constrictor. That is a viper, which you can tell very distinctly by its arrow-shaped head that it's a viper. Head shape gives you a lot of information about a snake. It's a pit viper because on each side behind its eyes it has these pits that are used to detect the warmth and the heartbeat of prey. Those are generally very highly venomous. We have venomous snakes in Texas, the main one being the copperhead. I don't know if you've ever had to find a copperhead in God bless, leaf litter, but it's almost impossible to do. Water moccasins, they're aggressive. They will actually come towards you in the water. Most snakes are very shy and try to get away. Copperheads, it's really just typically unfortunate that you're very near one. Rattlesnakes, of course, warn you away with their rattle, but guess what? Since human beings kill the rattlesnakes they hear, we have been evolutionarily selecting for rattlesnakes that don't have rattles everybody. So now, more and more commonly, rattlesnakes are being born without rattles. And so you wouldn't be able to know they were near you unless you knew you were looking for them. Would you grab this snake? There's something called a coral snake, and then there's something called a milk snake. And the only difference between the two is the arrangement of yellow, red, and black on their skin. So the rhyme is red touch yellow, you're a dead fellow. Red touch black, you're okay, Jack. So in this picture, red is touching black. So this is a harmless milk snake. However, in one small part of Texas, we do have the coral snakes, and you have to be wary of them. You have to know that coat pattern. Snakes are everywhere. Remember, this was their land before it was our land. This is an example of courtesy towards other living animals. This person actually stopped before running over the snake, and I believe they just waited for them to go along their merry way before they kept going. There's a baby cobra. Baby cobras are just as venomous as adult cobras. A cobra, a cobra. So no matter the size, they can kill you. These are the 4 most venomous snakes on the entire planet. You have the taipan, you have the fer de lance, you have the king cobra, and then you have the sea snake. Sea snakes are the most venomous. But everybody, they're all going to kill you. And they all kill you because they have hemolytic venoms that once they're put into their body, your body, cause all your blood cells to lyse. Yay. Rattlesnake. This is a day gecko from Hawaii. I know because I saw these little doodads myself. I even got a really good picture of one, but I've never, found it again because it was like on a camera, and who does that? They're cute. This is a skink. We have these bad boys in our backyards if you look close enough. Not me because Rolo eats everything, but they could. This is a rock iguana. These are frilled dragon lizards. They can, I, I forget what they do. Sorry. These are Gila monsters. They are venomous? Yes. Yeah, you don't want to get bit by one of them. Oh, and it doesn't show a Komodo dragon. Komodo dragons aren't actually venomous, but what they do is they bite you, and their mouths are disgusting. So much so that once they bite you, you are infected with bacteria that are going to kill you. And then they just slowly follow you wherever you go. And you get this really bad infection that eventually kills you, and then they eat you. So yeah, that's a hunting method on this planet. Then we get to birds. Birds are reptiles. Birds are dinosaurs. Birds have a 4-chambered heart. We have 4-chambered hearts, ladies and gentlemen. Ah, birds are a 4-chambered heart. They are also warm-blooded. I don't know if it's been explained to you that the reason dinosaurs are different than reptiles is because dinosaurs were warm-blooded animals, is one of the main reasons. We have honeycombed bones because we need to be able to fly, and if we had solid bones, we would not be able to get off the ground. We have reduced organ systems, also for flight. Large sternal muscles for flight. We have a 4-chambered heart so that we have enough oxygen to fly. Air sacs to fly. Feathers for flying. So, flight. I can do this. Being the big evolutionary advantage here. Also, as we saw, sexual dimorphism, the males are pretty much always on display and the females stay hidden and drab. Here's flamingos. If you ever want to break your heart, watch documentaries about flamingos. They get their pink color by eating crabs that are the same color in the salt flats of Bolivia, I believe, but they're also hatch their chicks in the salt flats of Bolivia, and sometimes it's a very sad life for the chicks. Here's an eagle. A bald eagle, specifically the national bird of Texas. Benjamin Franklin wanted it to be a turkey. And is it a reptile? Not anymore. Yes, yes, it's under class Reptiliae, but it's a bird. Hummingbird, showing that distinct convergent evolution where the flowers are the shape of the hummingbird's beak. Penguins, everybody's favorite. Peacocks. Owl. Snowy owl. Turkey. Some sort of red-headed woodpecker. A bird of paradise. You know that Nausium adamantium. Another bird of paradise. A rooster. Geese, which are very mean. A puffin. And penguins wandering off into the distance. This gets us all the way to Mammalia.